You gotta submit all this evidence. You know, like I need like 3 witness statements and all these other witness stuff. So yeah, so in the next 12 weeks, I should be named the official Guinness World Record holder. Simon's a little bit bitter. You know. I've been doing a lot of press over the past 2 weeks. Like, so he lives in Great Britain. So I've officially been infiltrating the Great Britain press, all the like BBC interviewing and stuff. So, yeah. So he's like a little bit bitter, but so I look forward to taking him on. And is this like y'all's first time knowing who I am? I don't know like who knows me or anything. I do most of my stuff on like through Facebook and Instagram. So I think like the 2 tables back here are like my age group. But yeah, my name's Adam. I'm the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called I Got Legs. Our mission is to re-enable athletes with physical challenges. So the term re-enabled comes from how I feel when I'm in this exoskeleton. Which, by the way, I would be wearing right now, but the battery's dead. I really just have not been wanting to look at this thing since since the Charleston Marathon. So yeah, but it's right here. The battery's a little bit dead though, but yeah. So the term re-enabled comes from how I feel when I'm in this exoskeleton. I tell people I don't feel disabled, but I don't feel able-bodied. I feel what I call re-enabled. And all that really means is just it's like a little artsy word for what it feels to be empowered. So our mission is to empower athletes with physical challenges. So how do we do that? With our grant fund, where we give partial grants towards other people's exoskeletons and other forms of adaptive technology. My goal with all this 1 million steps and racing and stuff is to turn this thing into a NASCAR-like sport. So between me, Simon, this Guinness World Record, there's a few other people around the country now that are starting to do races. So my goal is to really turn this thing into its own like sanctioned sport almost. And we're finally starting to get there. I've walked about 400,000 plus, like 407,000 steps using this exoskeleton. So between that and me doing this marathon, the manufacturers and all the other exoskeleton walkers are finally starting to take me a little more seriously, which is nice. So and then our ultimate goal with I Got Legs is to really evolve all this technology. So we're finally starting to make some small grounds on that. Working with the manufacturers. I have a lot of ideas of how to drive all this technology forward. But yeah, anybody have any questions for me? Yeah, in the back. Yeah.
How do you count the steps? Is it the machine counting or is it counting?
Yeah. So in the back of the exoskeleton, there's this like battery. This is like almost like a backpack looking thing. There's a really high-tech computer system in there that tracks my steps. So yeah.
How many paraplegics are using this type of equipment?
Yeah, so last April, I saw on the manufacturer's Facebook page that the 500th person in the world is now using it. Now, I don't know if that means that those 500 people, I'm not sure how many actually own their own exoskeleton versus are just using them at a rehab center. Health insurance doesn't cover it, so I would imagine it's like a lot of those people are just using it at a rehab center.
Why wouldn't the insurance companies cover this equipment?
Well, one, it's probably it's probably 3 reasons why. One, it's about $120,000 right now.
I'm sorry, how much?
About $120,000. It's expensive, right? So, and it's very new technology, right? Most health insurances, yeah, they'll cover a wheelchair because if I don't have a wheelchair, I can't live. I mean, I'd be dead pretty much, right? So a lot of health insurances, don't necessarily see this as like a medical necessity. Now the the manufacturers have a whole side of the company that deals with insurance claims and stuff. So they're on a rare case-by-case basis, they will cover this. The VA, though, will cover paralyzed veterans' exoskeletons, as long as they meet certain physical qualifications. And then there's a couple other employer-based healthcares that are starting to, I mean, not necessarily cover them, but they don't have a universal policy of like not covering them. So it's a good first step. I think with my organization, the more people we get using them, I think that's going to help. And then you attach sponsorship, partnership element to it. So with us, raising awareness is such a big thing, because obviously it attracts like the partnerships and sponsorships. So we're really starting to make rounds and like that. But yeah.
So what's it like when you're getting ready, when you're putting on the exoskeleton?
It takes. So I described this exoskeleton like the lower half of a Terminator suit, right? Like usually it'd be sitting in this bench right here. So I would transfer out of it. This watch right here is like the remote controlled brain of the exoskeleton. It's on my right hand wrist. It's got 3 settings: sit, stand, and walk. When I put it in stand mode, it stands me up. When I put it in walk mode, on the ground here I have these 2 arm crutches. So I tap forward with each arm crutch and kind of move my hips and abs side to side. And then there's a sensor right here in the exoskeleton on each side of, within each leg, that picks up the movement in my abs and hips, which then kicks in the motor. So my abs and hips, initiate the exoskeleton movement, and then there's a motor within this leg that actually physically moves my leg. But right now it's more Terminator-like. So one of my things with my organization and working with the manufacturers is turning this thing into more Avatar-like. Yeah, ever seen the movie Avatar? Yeah, it's like that main character is also paralyzed, right? So it's like like how do we make it more? It is a little. I mean, it's an amazing first step with the technology, but it is more Terminator-like. So it's to make it more Avatar-like. I won't get too technical, but it would be to where it replaces this wheelchair a little bit more. Because I'm still in this wheelchair like 99.9% of the time. So yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Servicing, how often do you service, or do they send someone to help you service?
Yeah. So I use my exoskeleton a lot more than like the average person. I have by far like the most steps out of anybody. I have almost 1 million steps like total. If you count like the training steps. So I'll say about once every like 2 to 3 months, I'll get like a blown motor maybe. The ankles occasionally will break. But yeah, they're actually pretty good about flying in town. What I've seen with these exoskeletons is that the technology is like one side of the equation. It's the team of people that fly in town to fix it. That's like almost just as important as the exoskeleton itself. So this manufacturer, ReWalk, they're like one of 3 or 4 exoskeleton companies that are FDA approved for home personal use. But they're like really great about flying in and fixing it.
So in a marathon, do you have like a team of those guys knowing when you're going to do a marathon and ready to go? Just in
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I've been so with this last marathon. I've walked about 50 races at this point now. So I used to rely on the manufacturer a great deal to fly in town and kind of be my NASCAR pit crew. But it's me doing all these races is not really part of their business model. They're like, obviously, it's a little kind of crazy thing I'm doing. So I really have taken it upon myself to really develop our own system within I Got Legs that allows this to happen without a lot of technical support from the manufacturer. So with the marathon, they only flew 1 technician in town. he didn't really walk with us. I mean, there's like certain parts where like he, you know, if we needed an extra battery charged or whatever, he would come pick up the batteries and charge them and stuff. But he, you know, he in terms of like actually physically doing anything with the exoskeleton during the race, you know, my dad was there, but you know, we had 2 volunteers that, like, you know, it was a great system. So I think, you know, it's my job to make sure that, you know, we kind of develop our own system, and the manufacturer really appreciates that.
So you cognitively make the decision to move a hip, and it will move that leg. Can it speed up, or is it all one speed? Can you?
Yeah. Yes and no. So it's so I can't feel my legs, so that's like a weird thing. But to answer your question, it goes about 1 mile to 1.2 miles per hour. I can speed it up a little bit in terms of like how I time my steps. Like I can speed up a little bit. The more of an incline there is, the slower the machine goes. The less battery charge, it'll start slowing down as well too. But there, I mean, you can kind of speed it up. I've noticed that the more weight that I lose, the faster I go, because I'm like straighter. So the lighter I am, the more straight posture-wise I get, the faster I can kind of walk. Simon in that documentary, he's got like really, I mean, you know, I describe him as like my arch nemesis. But he's an amazing walker. He's got like the most perfect walking form I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, so he's a pretty fast walker. I did crush his record, but in terms of like, yeah, if like me and him were gonna race like a straight line, 100-yard dash, I'm sure there's a good chance he might beat me. I'm also like 50 pounds heavier than him too. So. Yeah.
What was talk about the Charleston Marathon and how did you eat? Did you take a nap? You know, 30 plus hours just seems unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So the Charleston Marathon was my second marathon attempt. My first one came at the last year's Los Angeles Marathon. That was insane. That was like, it was the hardest course. Has anybody been out to LA? Like, it's just one huge hill. Like every hill is twice that bridge. Like in terms of steepness, just insane. So I only made 17.2 miles total with the LA Marathon. So from that quote unquote failure, I kind of learned how to do the Charleston Marathon. So the Charleston Marathon was on Saturday morning. It technically started at 7:10 a.m. So I started Thursday night at 10:34 p.m. And then I didn't sleep at all. I didn't sleep like one bit. You know, I had a whole NASCAR type pit crew with me. One of those people was a physical therapist, so she's feeding me power bars, and you know, she's making sure I was getting the proper amount of carbs and protein and stuff, which definitely helped. So, but it was a pretty intense experience. I mean, it was like, you know, I mean, you know, right around mile 20, I was like, man, I don't know, this is like not a good idea anymore. I was like, I don't know if this is healthy. And then mile 24, I started having like micro blackouts kind of for like 1 to 2 seconds. It was the weirdest thing. I just remember, I like literally blacked out like while walking for like 1 or 2 seconds. Wow. It was like the weirdest feeling in the world. And then post-race, I was in the medic tent for like 3 hours, just shivering my face off because like my entire body was like in complete shock. So, yeah.
How far does the technology have to go before you can try?
So I think in order for that to happen, it's got to become more Avatar-like. You know, I don't want to. You know, I'm not sure if how much you know about spinal cord injury technology. I think it's in order for that to happen, which is I've actually started these conversations. There's a thing that the Christopher Reeve Foundation has been raising awareness and funds for. This thing called the epidural stimulator. It's essentially this spinal implant. So I have a severed spinal cord. So it's pretty much like, you know, just a bunch of scar tissue. It's pretty much completely severed, right? So this epidural stimulator, they implant it in the in that part of your spinal cord that's severed. This like nano strip thing. They sew you back up, and then you have this external box that you turn on, and then through your thought power, you can start moving your legs again. It's incredible stuff. I mean, it's like amazing, but it's and it's having great results. It's still in like stage 2 clinical trial, but it's like revolutionary. Now those people are, it's like a slow limp, right? So my thing is, man, if we can give that technology its own exoskeleton, so it's like where you think with your mind, when you turn on that little external box, you start moving your leg, but at the same time, like I'd be able to move my own exoskeleton. So I think, and apparently that's like possible. I had this meeting like 6 months ago with this guy who's pretty heavily involved with that epidural. He's like, all that technology's there, but he's, So I said, all right, after the Charleston Marathon, I'll be reaching back out to you. So, but yeah, so I guess to answer your question, this went on a tangent, but yeah, I think it's got to become more avatar-like, because I can't feel my legs, so it's me trotting and running without being able to feel my legs. It's kind of weird. That'd be such a weird sensation. So I mean, it'd be incredible. But I think I'd have to be able to have a lot more control with it, and probably be able to feel my legs as well too. So yeah.
How much does the exoskeleton weigh?
Weighs about between 55 and 60 pounds. Yeah. So it's so because of that and it being kind of more Terminator-like, I tell people that I wouldn't wear this exoskeleton on like a first, second, or third date with the girl, but like a fourth or fifth. It's a production, right? If you bring this, I need like someone like my dad to come with, take it with me. I can't feel my legs, so I have to, for insurance purposes, they always want somebody with me, like walking next to me, kind of. Or within like a 10 to 20 foot radius. So it's not like, it's like really meant for wide open spaces. Walks in the park, big shopping malls, road races. But yeah, I mean, it's a great first step there.
Does your dad have to go on dates with you?
No, because by the fourth or fifth date, I've already got to know the girl, and she, But no, it's I'm sure my dad would want to come with me too. This is my dad, by the way.
Yeah, Dr. Stan. Adam, what's your next goal? Have you set another goal? I know the Charleston Marathon's still fresh, but
I mean, I think, look, I've done a 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon now. I guess in terms of my personal athletic achievement, I guess if I could try to break my own Guinness record, that'd be pretty cool. I would love to race against Simon, like a one-on-one race. Yeah. So I think, to answer your question, though, it's like, how do we tie, really tie my 1 million steps, from a programmatic standpoint. So I think like the next goal of mine would be to race, would be to start racing actually against people. Not in marathons, but like, so usually I would never like walk an entire marathon. I mean, it's 33 hours. I mean, I could probably do 1 or 2 of these a year. So usually I would start scaled in. So with my version of a marathon really is a 10K. It takes almost 7 hours. So what I've seen is if I can start scaled in like at mile 20, then I get to start with everybody, and then I get to finish with all the slower walkers and runners. So I think that's, I'm going to start. So I've already started to put in those scaled in starting lines within some of the road races, at least here in Charleston. So now it's getting more people like myself using these exoskeletons, at least at the local rehab center, and then walking with them at races. So, but I guess in terms of personal goal, maybe like the Ironman, maybe or something. I mean, that's pretty insane. That's like a marathon, 150-mile bike ride, right?
Yeah,
like a mile, 1.2 miles swim. Yeah, I don't know if I'm quite there.
Well, any other questions?
Yeah.
I'm curious, is it any way to quantify how many folks would want that in South Carolina that's applicable for, and do those numbers exist?
So, I mean, I guess there technically is a way to calculate that. So, like, for instance, Roper St. Francis, where I started using this, they have their spinal cord injury clinic. And I think now they have over almost 1,000 members now. Now that's statewide. So technically, I don't know how many of those people would actually be able to use this. I would imagine probably a lot. It's not for everybody though. It's not something I would necessarily use on a daily basis. When I make that joke of not wearing it on a first, second, or third date, what I really mean by that is, I wouldn't necessarily wear it like around my house. I mean, I could. I wouldn't wear it out to like a restaurant necessarily. I mean, I could, but it's still way more practical me being actually in my chair. So what the manufacturers are one of the problems that they're seeing is that not enough people. People want to use it, but not necessarily on a daily basis.
So I apologize, Mac, I don't want to look, but could it be a kind of centralized unit where you might have it at a park? How difficult it is to get up to speed to utilize it?
Yeah, so I mean that would be really cool. It'd almost be like one of those like bike things then, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's actually a really interesting thing that would actually be really cool. I'm gonna look into that actually. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I guess something like that could theoretically exist. The problem would be that there is so much FDA regulation with this in terms of getting approved to use it. I mean, it's not like a huge ordeal, but there is some red tape to be able to use it. You can't really just kind of buy it off the shelf. You have to use it and get certified. So that's also a barrier. I've literally had people that have gotten their insurance companies to. I've had 2 people where this has happened, where their insurance paid for it, and then they reach back out, 9 months later, reach out to me wanting me to sell their exoskeleton to somebody else. It's like the black market of exoskeletons. But I with those 2 people, I asked them, what's going on? I just never use it. But yeah, I like your idea. That's really cool, actually. Because
Thank you for coming.